name is Mariel Graham Connell.
My name is Doris Englert.
My name is Dorothy Myers.
And I work for the Army Map Service.
For the Army Map Service as a topographic draftsman.
I worked as a draftsman during World War II. We grew up in Cary. My father worked at J&L Steel Mill. We went through the Depression. It was pretty hard times. I had two brothers, but the one died from diabetes. They didn't have the insulin back in those days, so they couldn't save him. And my other brother went into the Navy during World War II. And I was the only girl in the whole Nordheim family.
Dorothy grew up in Carrick, Pennsylvania, where she attended Carrick High School along with Doris Englert. As the students neared graduation, recruiters were sent to the school to find workers for the Army's map service.
They came and recruited anybody that was interested.
And they came right out to the high school and asked us if we'd like to go into these jobs.
We were just graduating and you were looking for something to do.
So we went right from high school into drafting the maps.
Mary O'Connell was recruited in a different way.
Well, it was in the paper, newspaper. We had a small little, like a 2x2. And then they went to high schools and got people who were like Dorothy and Doris, who went to school, and then they sent them to classes. We had some teaching, some schooling in the drafting for about 2 weeks at a school up on Wiley Avenue. And then we went from there right into the drafting because they were so much in need of drafting the maps that they had to cut the teaching down shorter.
In 1942, the Army's map service expanded rapidly to meet the military's demand for maps of foreign territories. Drafting offices were opened in 6 cities, including Indianapolis, Indiana, Cleveland, Ohio, Louisville, Kentucky, St. Louis, Missouri, Quincy, Illinois, and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The employees were screened and background checks were conducted to ensure the reliability and security of the workplace.
Well, I think they did interview like some of your neighbors to see if, you know, your background, if there was nothing illegal in your background.
They went to your neighborhood and asked if you were an honorable person or something like that.
Civil service job. We had to be fingerprinted, just like any civil servant.
Every time I get down to get my fingerprints done, they wouldn't take. My fingerprints never took. They were, every time I'd walk in, they'd say, "Oh, here she comes again." So I guess I could have gone away with anything.
The Army Map Service required that they work in a converted school building in downtown Pittsburgh.
The old Hancock School was where we went to work.
We worked in a school, and as I said, nobody knew what we were doing.
And they locked you in every day, and they unlocked you at the end of the day. Never did think anything about it.
And we would, because of the ink, the girls would always buy smocks and wear smocks. And there was an alley back there up in the Hill District, and the people that lived back there could see us in the windows, you know. And the rumor got around that because we were all in smocks, we were a bunch of pregnant women.
There was a strict process to accurately creating the maps. Aerial photographs were taken of specific locations and they were sent back to the Army's map service to be redrawn as a map.
It was a big camera. It was a room about maybe 12 by 14. And this big camera was up on the ceiling and it focused down onto a table with these maps imposed there, and you had to put what you saw from the camera down on the map, like the rivers and the houses and things like that you had to put down from the photograph.
There was a stick-up. A stick-up is actually applying the names of cities and rivers and identifying things by words. And I did a lot of that. I did a lot of the arranging of the stick-up by cutting it out and piecing it together. It had to be pieced so that it did not look pieced. It looked as if it was printed that way.
Once a map was completed, the Army reproduced it using various lithographic reproduction techniques, and the copies of the maps were sent to the troops overseas. While producing the maps, the workers were paid by the hour.
I mean, it was your first job. You had no idea what to expect.
I guess at that time it was fair. Now when you look back now, you think $90 a month? My goodness. But at that time it got you through.
Remember, I made more in overtime than I did in regular pay.
We were paid overtime, and that was better than the actual monthly wages. So that, a lot of people did put that away, and it did add up.
What did you do with your money?
Spent. I know I didn't save very much.
There was a difference between the role of men and women in the workplace in the 1930s and 40s as compared to today.
The men got the supervisor jobs.
Well, there were more women because there were so many men in the service. They had to take advantage of the women and take them in. So we really outnumbered the men quite a bit. But the supervisors and the bigger men in the jobs were men.
I don't remember that I was ever mistreated by a supervisor in any way. Sometimes they were a little bit, well, I say, I was treated very well by my supervisors. On occasion, they became a little too friendly, but on the whole, they were pretty good.
I liked them. They were almost all were very nice. Yeah, very considerate, very nice. Mm-hmm. And everybody got along with everybody. There was no tension or friction or anything. They got along fine. It was white and colored. It didn't make any difference. We got along fine, which was unusual in those days.
Dorothy, Mariel, and another woman from the map service took an exciting trip to New York City one weekend as a vacation.
And one evening we went to the Astor Hotel in the bar, and we had cocktails. And we weren't drinkers, but we just wanted to sit around and see the atmosphere and so forth. And these two men walked in, and they sat down next to us, and they started talking, and we talked, and they said, well, you girls are not from New York. We said, no, we're from Pittsburgh, and we wanted to see New York. So the colonel said, well, he said, I could take you around tonight. And the other gentleman said, well, he had to go home. So the colonel got the three of us, and we went around. We went to bars, we went to restaurants, and we went to one place in Harlem. And being that he was a colonel, we always got the best seats wherever we went. We left there, the colonel said, well, did you ever ride in a hansom cab? No. Well, let's do that. Okay, so he got the hansom cab, we got in, and it was chilly, so they put blankets around us. And we were driving through the Central Park, and a car starts to follow us with three fellas in it. Well, there we are, three girls and one man, you know. And the driver tries to take off. Well, he can't outdo a car. So he stops. The car stops, and then the colonel took off his robe or wrap, and he stood up, and of course they saw he was a colonel, and the way they took off like you wouldn't believe. And we found out later that he was the nephew of President Truman. In fact, I corresponded with him for a couple of times, and the one woman that's in this corresponded and saw him after that. He was very nice, very nice.
As World War II came to a close, the need for maps decreased. Budget cuts were made and workers' jobs were terminated as a result. Some were given the option to move to Washington, D.C., where map-making personnel were still needed, but not many people went from Pittsburgh to fill those positions. Dorothy got married and raised a family after the war. Doris got married and had 5 kids, and Mariel got married later in life. All three have kept in touch ever since. Winning World War II would never have been possible without the skilled craftsmanship and determination of people like these 3 women.